Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our very first Jiu-Jitsu Con talk. Our first speaker is Professor Galvão. Andre is an IBJJF Hall of Famer and is the owner and head instructor at Atos Jiu-Jitsu in San Diego, California. Today, Andre is going to be discussing parenting in Jiu-Jitsu and the professor-student relationship. Andre, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for being here, too. It's a great pleasure. Thank you, guys.
So, Andre, let's kick off our conversation just talking about parenting in Jiu-Jitsu. What do you feel like is the role of parents when their kids start training and competing in Jiu-Jitsu?
Yes. I'm a parent as well, right? My daughter is 18 years old today, nowadays, and as a parent, you have to understand that you are the mental coach of your child, okay? So the parents need to understand what role they play in the team. Because a lot of times the teams, they try to put the parents away from the environment. They say like, the parents cannot be part of the team. But I believe that the parents needs to be involved in the team, knowing their role. And their role is to be the mental coach of their child. When you understand that, you don't cross the lines, right? As a parent, you need to understand that your role is being the mental coach and not being the jiu-jitsu coach. And a lot of times, like, you cross the line. And by doing that, you kind of like make your child lose the confidence to their coaches, right? It's very important to build the trust and the relationship in the right way. So the parent's the mental coach of their child.
So let's talk a little bit about motivation, because I think when kids start training a lot, they get really into jiu-jitsu, and sometimes when they train really frequently, motivation can kind of wane, and it can be difficult to keep kids motivated throughout the whole process.
Yes.
So can you talk about how parents can keep their kids motivated to keep training and keep competing?
Yes, definitely. As a parent, I made a lot of mistakes, right? I'm not the perfect guy, right? I made a lot of mistakes as a father, as a husband, like anyone else, as a coach, right? But I'm in the role that I am the coach and the parent and the leader. It's very hard to divide everything. But I try my best to divide that. The time that I have with my daughter as a father, I understand when is the time that I'm the father, the time that I am the coach, right? When I need to call her attention, the time that I am the one that will boost her mindset, right? As a mental coach. So you have to understand your role. Let's say if you're the parent that only have your child doing the sport, or in this case, jiu-jitsu, and you're not a coach, right? You're just a parent. You've never done any sports, and you want your kid to be motivated, right? I feel that the motivations is daily basis, and usually the parents, they focus too much on like comparing their kids with other kids. I think this is not good, okay? This is not motivating. Sometimes you can say, look at this kid, he's doing so well, you should do like him, right? I don't think this is the right way to say things or to do things, okay? And the kids usually, they feel pressure already. Just by being there on the mat, they already feel pressure. And you as a parent, you have to know how to develop like the mindset of your child, boost their motivation, and not put a lot of pressure, which is like really hard. As a parent, we think that we are doing the right thing because we love our child, right? And sometimes like you do things that is not right, and you have to understand that. And I suggest us as a parent, we have to focus first on fix our lives, right? Because a lot of times like you think that the way you learn from your parents is the way you have to teach your child, right? But sometimes it's not the right way. And you have to understand when you're wrong, right? I think that's very important. Because we do jiu-jitsu, we're very open heart to learn new things, right? When you train jiu-jitsu, you're very open mind, right? And as a parent, I use this open mind mindset of jiu-jitsu to recognize my mistakes and my failures as a parent, as a coach, as a leader, right? And I think that can help me to motivate my child. Number one, don't compare your kid with anyone, right? That's very important. Number two, you have to motivate your child through the effort, not through the talent, right? Sometimes like you think that you can only like give compliments to your child because they hit a nice armbar, they hit a nice triangle, they hit something incredible, and you feel like, oh, that's the way I can motivate my kid. I can compliment their techniques, right? It's great, it's good, cool, but that's not what you bring them to be motivated, right? The right way for you to do it is through compliment their effort. Let's say your child is training really hard, sweating, super focused, and you compliment that. You say, hey, I saw you really focused today. Congratulations. You show up on time. The coach told you to do like 10 push-ups. You did 11. That's incredible. Congratulations. Keep working hard, right? It's about showing the kid that they are responsible for their progress, right? If you understand that, it will be easier for you to motivate your child, right? It's through the motivation towards like their efforts, responsibility, discipline, right? Anytime that you can congratulate them or compliment anything about their effort, about the things that they're doing right, great, right? But also there's a time that you feel like your child is maybe being lazy, right? Is not doing well, right? Of course, you can have a talk with the coaches, right, about the behavior of your child and all that. But it's very, very important, you as a parent, because you are the one that will be spending more time with your child, right? And a lot of times the parents, they think the motivation comes only through the training, right? It can be like maybe 50, 60%, right? Let's say if the training environment is not good, of course, your kid is not gonna get motivated to train, right? But don't forget that the kids, they love to have fun. They want to have fun, right? It has to be fun. It's already a lot of pressure for them to be there, and they don't want to disappoint you. Your kid doesn't want to disappoint you at all, right? And sometimes like you show that they're disappointing you by one thing, and you put a lot of pressure on that, they feel pressure. And the coaches as well can be the one that needs to motivate their child, their students, and they need to know how to do it, right? And also, let's say, I can give you examples, right? I remember one time my daughter, Sarah, she was training, and then she was about like 12 years old, right? And she was rolling, and when it was like a minute and a half, by the end of the round, a minute and a half left, the other kid like triangled her, put her in a deep triangle, and she was there like getting suffocated, and the kid was like squeezing, and turned belly down and swept her and mounted her, started extending her arm, and she was like trying to defend. And I was just watching from outside. I was like, oh my God, she's getting murdered, right? She's getting smashed. And I was just watching, and then like the fight was over, the time was over. She didn't tap, right? It was a minute and a half, maybe a little bit longer. And then afterwards, like, I remember we're driving back home, and then Sarah like, Mom, Dad, did you see? I got stuck in the triangle for a minute and a half, and I didn't tap. And then we're like, wow, she thinks she has superpowers because she didn't tap, right? And I was like thinking completely different. I was just like, you know what, like, she got smoked, right? I have to show her like how to defend a triangle. But then when she said that, I was just like, wow, I have to feed that on her heart. Wow, you did incredible. Yes, you're so tough. You're the best. Congratulations. Next time, we're going to escape, and we're going to overcome that. Yes, Dad, high five, boom. You know, I think that's the way you have to do things, right? And today, we all know, like, Sarah, like, she's succeeding a lot in Jiu-Jitsu, right? She already carried a lot of pressure for being my daughter and Angelica's daughter, right? And being the daughter of the owner of the school, right? All this pressure, right? And I remember, like, the first time she decided to stop Jiu-Jitsu for a while when she was 8 years old, it was because everybody at the gym was asking her if she would be a world champion like her mom and dad, you know? And me and Angelica, we just look at each other, and we just like, you know what? She's feeling a lot of pressure. We need to take this out of her. And then, like, she started doing some other things for a couple of years, and then she came back to Jiu-Jitsu again. But I put that motivation on her. I remember she was doing jazz, and then I watched the class, and she wasn't sweating much. She started getting chubby, and I was just like, you know what? I think like my daughter needs to go back to jiu-jitsu. How am I gonna talk to her? How am I gonna motivate her? And then I look at her and say, Sarah, like I think you're getting the age that, you know, you have to be ready to defend yourself, right? And you have to be ready to stand for you. I think jiu-jitsu is great. We have a great school. You have a lot of good friends there. You can make a lot of friends. And she's like, yeah, Dad, you're right. I'll try it. And then she started. And then in the first month of training, she decided to fight Kids Pen. Kids Pen is the toughest tournament for kids. And she's like, I want to fight Kids Pen. And I was just like, oh my God. And I looked to Angelica, I don't know what to do. She's not ready, you know? Because she just came back after like a couple of years like not training. But then to motivate her, we motivate her. And then she ended up losing the tournament, right? She losing the finals. And then like how we motivate her after a loss, right? We saw her losing. We just hug her. You know, we hug her, we kiss her. We love you. You did great. Congratulations. Amazing job. And now let's do what need to be done, you know? That's it. I think like sometimes as a parent, we're trying to find things to say. Because you don't know what to say. You're just like, oh, maybe I should say this. Maybe I should say that. No. But I think it's most important at those moments, especially like losses, when the heart of your student or your child is broken, the best time for you to ask questions. Those are the best time for you to ask questions. How you feel about the training? How you feel about the tournament? You know, what passes through your mind when you're fighting? You know, and your kid is gonna open up for you. They're gonna say what they're feeling. And when you ask questions, you make them think. You don't only say like, you should do this, you should do that. And I can give another example. One time Sarah was fighting and she won. She won the tournament. She won the finals, but she won by 2 advantages. And I want her, my ego wants her to smoke the girl, right? As a parent, you want to see your kid like doing great. But then the fight was really tough. Her opponent was really, really tough. And then as soon as she won, she was celebrating. I call her out and say, hey, Sarah, you know what? You should make a grip like this. You should make a grip like that. And she would look at me, she's like, Dad, don't you see that I just won? What about the good things that I did that make me want to fight? And I was just like, oh my God, what a stupid man, you know? And then I just like, shut up. I shut up myself and it's just like, yes, you're right. You did great. Congratulations. But at that moment, I learned that right after a fight, your student or your child will not be like listening to the things that they make wrong. They want to know the things they did right at that moment. It's important, you know, especially after a victory, right? But when they lose, it's more about questions so they can go deep inside them and know more themselves. Because sometimes, like, it takes a long time for us as human beings to learn who we really are, right? Sometimes it's hard for you to like, who am I? You know, and then you start talking with yourself. And then you see like the things you did wrong and you did right. And you start knowing more about your personality, the things you like, the things you don't like, right? It takes a long time. But I think when you're a good parent, you help your child to discover that faster. So that way, like, they can stand when they need to stand, right, for some right, for their rights, right? And also, like, they can give opinion without lack of confidence. At the end of the day, as a parent, you're feeding confidence to your child, right? And there's a quote of Jordan Peterson. If you read the book, 12 Rules of Life, there's a quote that he said about let the kids play with the skateboard, right? And as a parent, we're very protective. We want to protect our kid too much, right? You see your kid like jumping around, you're like, no, don't do this, don't do that, you're gonna get hurt. But your kid, your child, they're challenging themselves when they're doing that, right? And I remember when Sarah was little, she was going to the monkey climb things, you know, at the parks. And I remember it was like really high. She's like, let me go then, let me go. I go by my own. And I let go and Jack, no, protect her. She's gonna fall. No, let her go. She says she can do it. And then when she finished, she feels like, wow, I made it. You know, I did by my own. So I think like you are the one that feeding those like moments of victory in your child, in their heart, make them believe that they can do it. They can do things such as like overcome huge challenge, right, without any fear. And as a parent, we are the ones that put fear in our child, right? The goal to motivation is motivate through their efforts and let them deal with their challenge, right? And ask questions when they feel like they did something wrong, right? Or things doesn't work in the way they want, right?
So you gave some great examples with competition with Sarah, but I want to get your take just on the parents and how their role changes when their child is competing. Because training is one thing, but with competition, there's additional nerves and stress and pressure. So how does the parent's role change when their kid decides to compete?
Yeah, I think the role doesn't change. You're a parent, you know? You're still the mental coach of your child if they compete or not. Because you prepare a human being to the society, right? And life is tough. A lot of times life is tough, right? It's about getting reward, right? You put an effort in something, you put a time, right? You make a plan, you make it work, you work hard, things will work for you, right? When people see, let's say, my daughter or my students winning tournaments, right? It's not because they're lucky or, you know, it's because they put time and effort. When you see the Rutolo twins like going there and then giving like a big show, fighting like crazy, they put a lot of effort on that, right? They work hard, okay? So it's all about working hard. And the parents sometimes are like, oh, what I do now, if my child wants to compete, right? They start competing, I have to change my role. No, you don't change your role. You're still a parent. You're still being the one that's going to support your child winning or lose. You're going to be with them. You're going to motivate them through their effort and through their discipline, right? And you have to understand that each individual has their own pace of learning, right? They have their own pace of learning. And I can say, of course, I'm talking about my daughter here because she's my daughter, right? As a parent, she's the one that I can give as an example, right? But I remember like when she was around 12, 13, right? She's still there, like she was fighting, it was okay, but it was kind of like a switch. It was like, boom, it happened like this, you know, and she was like every day there, very, with a lot of consistency, and things changed, right? So I think sometimes as a parent, we just like try to, we want the results really fast, right? But we have to understand that there's a lot of pressure on top of our child, right? Your role doesn't change if they want to compete. It doesn't change, okay? Your role, you're the parent, right? I think the only thing that changes is probably that there'll be more challenges and you have to be prepared for the bigger challenge. For example, because they're gonna compete more, there are a high percentage of them losing more, right? So you have to be prepared for that. And I think as a parent, we have to study and know like the psychological aspect of human behavior, right? You have to understand like how to communicate with your child. Building a straight relationship, right? Where your child is not afraid to tell them their feelings to you. I think this is very, very important, right? And I think like to answer your question like precisely, there'll be more challenges if your kids compete. So you just have to be ready. Be ready as a parent because you have to deal with the refs, you have to deal with the rules, you have to deal with the environment of the events, you have to deal with the other child's behaviors towards your kid. But I'm saying you to be prepared. It's not to fight against those odds, right? It's to be prepared. Because you cannot show your child that there's a lot of pressure on you as well, right? If like someone, let's say a ref make a mistake, I made this mistake, like yelling at the ref, like saying things, right? You guys probably saw that before. But honestly, at the end, like you feel miserable afterwards. Like, why did I do that? You know, it's all emotion. You have to control your emotions. And your child and your students, they all seeing that, right? And they feel a lot of pressure. So you have to understand that. I think the role is the same, but it's just more challenging.
So one big challenge for coaches and parents is kids getting burnt out. They start competing a lot, training every day, and it becomes overwhelming sometimes. So what can parents or coaches do to help kids find balance in their lives and continue to train jiu-jitsu for their whole lives?
Yeah, so one example that I can give, when I'm home with my daughter, I'm her coach, right, like at the gym, but I'm at home, we don't talk about jiu-jitsu. People think that we talk about jiu-jitsu all day long. I don't talk about jiu-jitsu at home at all, guys. Seriously, for God, nothing, zero. Only if my daughter asks me a question, asks me something, then I can talk. But I'm not the type of father that goes home, sit at the table and like, hey, let's discuss the training right now. Eat your food here while I'm talking with you. Oh, you did this wrong, you should do this, let's work on this. Never, ever, ever. I don't talk about that because I feel like there's a lot of pressure, like I said, and your kid just want the moment of parenting and child, right, the relationship with you. It's very, very important to have that communication of father and daughter, father and son, mom and daughter, mom and son, right? So we sit at the table, we just like a normal family, and we enjoy it. And I remember in the beginning, I was trying to make my daughter, convince my daughter to watch like footage and fights. And she was like, Dad, I don't want to watch. Okay, let's watch a movie. And then we watch. But now she's like becoming more like an adult, right? She's an adult right now. She's kind of like, Dad, I want to watch a fight with you. I'm like, okay, let's watch, you know? And then we discuss. Dad, I have a question. Can you show me here? And then I use the carpet from my house to show something. But never like I bring up the subject of jiu-jitsu. Never, ever, right? We always like talk and have fun and do the normal things just like normal families, right? My wife has a huge role in all my students' performance, right? I wish she was here. She couldn't be here today, but she helped me a lot with that, right? I believe that I became a better man because of the wife that I have. She always like correct me right away when I do things wrong. I did so many things wrong, right? And then she's like, Andrea, come here. Papa, this is wrong. I'm like, I hate to listen. It's hard, right? When you imagine like you as adults, somebody comes to you and corrects you. You don't like it, right? Imagine your kid. They don't like to listen to that as well, right? We just think that, no, they don't like it, but you have to know how to do it. There's the right time to do things, right? So I think it's very, very important to have this balance, understanding that your child wants to have a quality time with you, right? Parent and kid. So I remember like I play a lot at the pool with my daughter. I was dead. I was like doing camps and training. I was sore. I know some of you work all day long. You're tired, right? And your kid's just like, Dad, let's go to the pool, or Dad, let's go to the beach, or Dad, let's go to the park. And you're just like, you know, you have to. But I'm telling you, when you do it, you kind of like renew your energy. Renew your energy because you know that they love it and your relationship will go straight forward and you have no problem, right? It's very important to be the best friend of your kid, okay? And nowadays, my daughter, she's 18, and, you know, like, my wife and I, we just joke about this. We say that you know, like when you go date me and my wife, she wants to be with us, you know? Well, how you call this? Like, it's not a date breaker. Like, it's like she hold the candles for us, you know what I mean? Pretty much. Huh? Third wheel. She's the third wheel. She's got dad. You say that. But yeah, like she loves to be close to us because I think we have a healthy relationship, right? And trust me, guys, there was times in my life that I commit mistakes that I have to go to my daughter and recognize those mistakes to her. I went straight forward to her and say, Sarah, come here, I want to talk to you. I bring her to her room and I talk straight forward. I made this mistake. I'm so sorry. You know, Daddy made this. I apologize. You know, and she's like, I'm good, Daddy. Thank you so much for letting me know. And she hugged me and we just fixed the things up. Because it's kind of like you feel when your child is behaving a way that is kind of like challenging you. Because when they start becoming teenagers, they start challenging you a little bit. But there's something that you have to talk. You have to talk. And it's hard conversations that you make healthy relationship, right? It's through hard communication. And I have those hard communications a lot. And as a parent, the most important thing, you have to recognize your mistake. Because sometimes as a parent, we want to play as a superhero. We don't want to show our weakness, right? But your child, one day, they're going to grow up. They're going to figure out all your weakness. They're going to know you have weakness, right? Like you have your parents. Like you know your parents, they make mistakes, right? But they never brought up to you, right? What about if they brought up to you? What would change, right? And I think there's no problem to ask for forgiveness when you make a mistake, right? And I did that many times. And I think this helped a lot in my relationship with my daughter. And when she make a mistakes, it's easier for her to recognize as well. And she apologizes the same way. Because they're just a reflection of you. You know?
So you gave some amazing tips for parents with their kids train jiu-jitsu, but I also wanted to get your take on the student and coaching relationship. I think that's something that obviously evolves as students start to train more, but I just want to get your take on how to make that relationship as mutually beneficial as possible for both the coach and the student.
Yeah. This is a bridge of two ways, right? Coach and student, right? And when your students start becoming, let's say, older, adult, right? There's a relationship with an adult, but there's a relationship with the child, right? With the kid, a kid student. And I'm telling you, it is the same thing. Adults, they are big kids, right? Everybody wants to get a compliment. Everyone feels good when somebody gives you a gift, right? When somebody brings a gift to you, don't you feel special, right? When you get promoted, right, you feel good, right? It's the same way, right? As a coach, you also have to recognize your mistakes and failures, the things that you're doing wrong, and fix it. Always fix it, and always get better. And I think the best thing is communication. How is your communication with your students, right? How do you communicate with them? Because when you have a group of teenagers or adults, you know, you have to send a message to the whole group. One will get it, and then maybe 20% will get it, 80% will not get the message, you know? And how are you going to bring that team spirit in your group, right? Just wait this.
Please report to the white zone. Jordan Maurice Grant, representing 6th place Jiu-Jitsu. Please report to the white zone.
All right.
Table, please.
So you see that, you know, you have to understand that there's things that you can do right, and there's things you can do wrong, right? But it's hard to be the leader, right? Because that's one thing my wife say. When you're there, you do the lineup, there's you looking to like 20, 50 guys, right, or girls, right there. And they are just looking at you. You are the only one that they look up to, right? And you have to send the right message so they can get it. There's different type of relationship and communication. And you can have a group communication, the way you talk with the whole group about something that you don't like in that environment, and you want to bring the team spirit, right? And there's a quote that most of you know here. We correct people in privacy, right? And you can kind of like compliment them, right? You compliment them in public, right? When somebody do really well, you tell in front of everyone, right? But if they do something really bad, you have to call them out and talk to them in privacy, right? I think this is very, very important, right? And we as a coach, we as a parent, we have our life story, right? We have our story. So we have to know who we really are, right? So you don't become that toxic coach, right? You don't want to be that heavy-duty coach, like that only things like in one way. You have to have an open mind. And one thing that I discovered as a coach, my students, they're not like me, okay? I'm a type of guy. When I was training really hard, I was every day, 12 hours a day, training all day long. But if I do this with some of my guys, they broke. They break their body, their mind, right? They got unhappy, right? I can give you examples of two extremes. I have like my student there, Jonathan Gracie. That guy's a machine of training. He trains all day long. Like I have to tell him to slow down, right? But I have Kaina Duarte. He's a guy that trains less. You know, for him, like over 2 hours a day of training is too much. He start getting overtrained, you know? And seriously, he start getting sick, sore throat. A lot of things start happening with his body, right? So you have to find the balance as a coach. And how you push your entire team, excuse me, but also how you communicate individually with each student and how you push them individually, right? Because you have to have that type of conversation. And it's hard when you have a huge group like mine, right? A lot of coaches that have 1 or 2 students that they're like popping up. I have like many guys. There's like 15 guys that are popping up. They're the best in the world. It's hard to like help all those egos, right, in the same room, right? It's a lot of ego. And I have to have a communication with them, straightforward, right? I have to, right? And I think the key for a coach and a student to have a great relationship is through communication. And the student has to be open as well. Some students, they open their lives to you. They open their heart. Some students, they just close their heart. They don't want to say much. They hide things, you know. But I think when you build that trust, right, that trustful relationship where they believe in you, they start opening up their heart to you. You understand more what is passing through their minds and hearts, so you can help them. Because as a champion, let's say, right? If you want to be a champion, if your child wants to be a champion, if anyone wants to be a champion, wants to succeed in life, right? You have to have a good balance in your life, right? Not only in the physical aspect, but also in the mental aspect and also in the spiritual aspect, okay? This is very, very important. And that's something that I always talk with my students. Your life is just one. You don't have 2 different lives, you know? You are an athlete here on the mat, and you're an athlete when you leave the mat as well. Everything you eat, the way you sleep, everything you're doing, you boost your training session or it's gonna devastate your training session. So you have to understand that. So to answer your question, communication, open communication is the best way to build connection between coach and students.
So you talked about it a little bit, but you have an amazing environment at Atos, and you have so many champions. So I think a lot of that stems from the individual relationships being very good with you and all your students. But can you talk about how you build that environment, how you keep it positive, and how you keep everyone working together on the same page?
Yeah, so first you have to have an open relationship, open heart as well. You can't hide things, right? It's not easy to be like a role model for people, for the students. Not easy, right? Because you're always in the spotlight, right? You have to watch what you're doing all the time, right? I have my belief system, right? I have like Jesus as my Lord and Savior, right? I believe in God a lot, and I believe He's watching me wherever I go. So this helped me to behave in a way that I can have mercy for other people. Because I feel that people make mistakes. And a lot of times, people like my students, like Jonathan's, Alexa, many others that are here, they make mistakes, and it blows my mind. I'm like, man, like, how can I talk right now about this subject to them, you know? And I have to sit and talk with them. My wife helped me a lot with that, right? So I think it's for the sake of the environment. We have to understand that people are different, right? Let's say you have 20 students. They're all different. They all have different backgrounds, right? And we have to understand that people, they have their way to see the word respect, right? Everybody needs to respect each other. But you know, when you're in an environment that bunch of athletes, full of energy, full of testosterone, they joke around, especially guys, right? They joke around a lot, right? And I openly tell my students, I say, guys, what kind of environment do you want? You want an environment that everybody comes here and just don't talk and just like be very like afraid to say a joke to someone because you can offend someone with a joke, right? Or you want to be like just loose and just say straightforward, I don't like that joke you say to me, right? Because sometimes I can say a joke to you, it got you in a way, but if I say the same joke to that guy, right, he's gonna be offended, right? I think you have to be clear of the environment that you want in your room, right? And you know, I'm a type of guy that I like to talk with people. I'm very social, right? Rolando is here. So, very social, talk to everyone, right? Have a good relationship. I joke around a lot. They joke with me, you know. It's a healthy environment, right? But I have to understand when somebody like feels super offended by something. I'm like, okay, I have to communicate different to this person, right? And I think as soon as they got this, you know, they understand this. And we all work together in order to become a team, champions in the same room. It's beautiful, right? I tell all my students that there's way more reward to help someone to achieve something in life than achieve by yourself. And that's one thing that I plant in every single student. I tell them, all right, you're a champ right now. Great, congratulations. Now you have to help everyone to become a champion like you or even better than you. And you have to go coach everyone. And some of them love it. They have the passion for it. Some of them don't like it. But then like, you have to keep the communication, make them understand, right? You can see that by when someone fights and you see like there's the whole team behind that person, right? You can tell like how much that person impact people's life. And I think that's the best way to be a champion. You have to impact people's life. And that's what I tell my students. You're not only a simple champion. You are someone that impacting people's life, and you have to know your role. You have to help other people to become better than you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Professor. We really, really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge and your time with us. It's very gracious of you. This was amazing. Thank you so much. We can't wait to see you again soon for another one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, CD. Can I say something? All right, before I go, I would like to thank all IBJJF staff, okay, for the amazing work, the organization, right? Danny for inviting me here too. Thank you so much. All you guys that came here, I appreciate you here. I hope you understand the message, right? And if you want to learn more about Professor Andre Galvão, right, I have my online platform, Atos BJJ On Demand, where we discuss all about techniques and all this subject that we talk here, right? And also through BJJ Fanatics, we have like a lot of courses there as well, okay? You guys more than welcome to be part of it as well, okay? But honestly, like, it's amazing to see how much Jiu-Jitsu grew, right? I remember I have conversation with my brother Siriema there, Marcelo, and man, to see like how Jiu-Jitsu is right now, it's incredible. It's great. I feel that there's more and more people practicing Jiu-Jitsu. And I was talking with a friend of mine yesterday on the phone, and they say, why do you think Jiu-Jitsu people are like that? Jiu-Jitsu people are so nice. They're very humble. Why? I said, because you have to be humble every single day. You humble yourself every day when you roll. You know, you have to have an open heart. And you are a different tribe, right? Our community is very connected. Our community is at the same time super fanatic as well for the sport. And I think this helps a lot too. And every single individual has their own jiu-jitsu style, right? I can show you an armbar, but you're gonna do the armbar in your way, right? That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. And I see that the federation have this mindset of always improving, always get better, just like any other big teams, right? They always trying to improve and get better, right? And I would like to congratulate the organization for such an incredible event, right? And now it's like over 10,000 people registered to fight in one single place, a single time. This is amazing, right? And more people practice jiu-jitsu, better world we'll have, because we're all gonna be so nice. Thank you guys. Appreciate that.
Thank you again, Andre.